In the 1970s, GE Plastics spent $50 million in the 70s to invent a single polymer. That's about $250 million in today's money on one plastic. The result? A material that ends up in every commercial aircraft cabin and every surgical autoclave on the planet. And until about 5 years ago, only one company on Earth could legally 3D print it. It's called ULTEM, and this is its story. Here at Vision Miner, we've been printing engineering polymers, ULTEM, PEKK, PEKK, polycarbonate, for almost a decade. Real industrial parts, every single day. This is what we help businesses implement into their shop floors. So let's talk about Joseph Worth's lab. Here's what they were trying to do. GE Plastics, late 1970s. A polymer chemist named Joseph Worth is leading a research team that's trying to solve a specific problem. There's a class of polymers called polyamides that have incredible thermal performance. They survive hundreds of degrees. They don't burn. They keep their stiffness when other plastics basically turn to soup. But you can't process them with normal manufacturing. The molecule doesn't melt cleanly, it just decomposes. It doesn't extrude well, you can't injection mold it, it's extremely hard to work with. So Worth's team wanted the polyamide level of thermal performance processable like a regular thermoplastic. So that's what the $50 million was buying. In 1982, they cracked the code, and they called the result ULTEM. So let's talk about the chemistry in plain English. This is the trick that they managed to pull off. ULTEM is a polyetherimide. That's two parts in that name. The imide groups give it a rigid backbone, and that's what survives the 217 Celsius without softening. The ether linkages act like flexible joints between those rigid sections, letting the polymer melt and flow. The stiffness from the imide and the processability from the ether. And here's a fact that still kind of blows my mind. You've got Earth's atmosphere at roughly 21% oxygen. ULTEM won't sustain combustion. It won't burn or light on fire until you hit 47%. You basically have to put it inside an oxygen tank to make it burn. And that is how it earned its UL94 V0 FST rating without any halogenated additives, which is why the FAA flame, smoke, and toxicity standards basically have ULTEM's name written all over them. Now, I gotta say, it seems like every time we post a video on high temperature polymers and our machines that the comment section fills up. I print ULTEM on my $300 desktop printer. My Kitty runs PEI, what's the big deal? Just turn the nozzle up and you're fine. Or I could build that thing in my garage for $2,000. But here's what most people don't realize. ABS melts around 230 Celsius. As long as your build plate's warm and the enclosure isn't too drafty, you'll pretty much be fine. ULTEM, though, is different in three critical ways. First, it's amorphous, so there's no crystallization, which sounds like a good thing. It also means that stress doesn't relax out the way it does in semicrystalline materials. As an ULTEM part cools from about 350 to 380 Celsius down to room temperature, the internal stress basically gets frozen in. That's when you get delamination between layers. You get microcracks that sometimes don't appear for days until later. You get warping that'll snap thin sections and thin walls in half. Secondly, its glass transition is 217 Celsius. So if your chamber's at 60, you've got nearly a 300-degree gap between fresh extrusion and cold part. And that is basically the gap where parts tear themselves apart. Thirdly, ULTEM is hygroscopic. That's HYGRO. It basically means that it pulls moisture out of the air, and it does so very aggressively. This is something we see like literally every day. We've found that if you take a spool of ULTEM out of the dryer and you leave it out in open air for 10 minutes, then you end up getting steam bubbles out the nozzle and bubbles all over the surface and inside and voids throughout the part that basically ruin its mechanical strength. So the question isn't just whether your nozzle can hit 350C, it's whether your entire build environment can hold a temperature just below the polymer's glass transition point long enough for the part to relieve its own stress. And that is the engineering problem. That's why ULTEM didn't show up in 3D printing the second FDM was invented. So let's talk about what we've learned in the last 10 years. We've been printing these polymers in chambers below 100 Celsius for almost a decade. And what we found is this: you can get away with a lot depending on the part, depending on the geometry, depending on how it's shaped and how thick it is and all these different things. The limitations really show up when you want a huge, thick, solid part. Massive build volumes printed fully solid, they even start running into thermal mass problems. It turns into a melty glob. That's a whole different rabbit hole we'll go down another time. We've actually got a whole series of tuning these high-temp materials on the 22 IDEX coming right here on this channel. So like the video or subscribe if you want to see that kind of content. We have found that roughly 80% of production parts can be printed on a machine like this without much issue. And if it's not aerospace, a lot of the time it doesn't matter, especially when it's like trays and stuff like that aren't taking the full mechanical load. A lot of the time then it's the chemical resistance or even just the thermal resistance. It's December of 2008. Stratasys announces a partnership with SABIC, and they're the ones who bought the GE Plastics division about a year before, in order to offer ULTEM 9085 as a certified FDM filament. So for the first time, you could 3D print a polymer that was already flight certified for commercial aircraft. Stratasys had engineered the answer to a thermal problem, and they patented it. US 6722872, a beautiful piece of engineering. Basically, keep the gantry motors outside a 200 Celsius oven while the print head pokes through a section of deformable bellows. It was a hard problem, and they solved it, and they patented it. So for about 20 years, the Fortus 400, 450, and 900 series were the only FDM machines on the planet that were really legally printing PEI without the parts tearing themselves apart. Now there's other ways to get around that patent, but the bellows is the best way when it comes down to it. That's what good engineering looks like when you get there first. You patent it, you reap the benefits. Makes sense. So these machines started churning out parts for some super serious applications. If you look at United Launch Alliance, they fly 3D printed ULTEM 9085 environmental control ducts on the Atlas V rocket. That's some serious launch hardware. In 2017, Made in Space installed a 3D printer on the International Space Station and started printing PEI polycarbonate blends in orbit. Astronauts now make repair tools on demand. We got a whole video coming on that. Pretty interesting parts. Now, ULTEM 1010 took a slightly different turn. It became autoclave rated and ISO 10993 biocompatible, so surgical guides could be printed from CT scans. Reusable hospital instrument trays, we see this all the time. Medical devices, trays, surgical tools, it's a big deal. This is not prototyping, these are like actual mission critical components. These are things that are being used in operating rooms. On February 27, 2021, the Stratasys heated chamber patent expired. The engineering knowledge that Stratasys spent 2 decades refining became something that other manufacturers could finally legally build into their own machines. Companies like Aeon 3D that we sell at visionminer.com, they'd been preparing for quite some time. The chemistry didn't change, it was the same material. What changed was access. At Vision Miner, our 22 IDEX runs all of these grades: ULTEM, PEKK, 1010, 9085, PEKK, polycarbonate, CF nylon, all that stuff for high value metal replacement parts. About 80% of the real production parts we've seen can actually run in a chamber well below the polymer's glass transition, as long as you know what you're doing. And that's what we've helped companies do for years, literally just about a decade now. Our machines are fully open. They use standard filament. There's no chips, there's no lockouts, no service plans. It's all currently under 15 grand. We do what we do because Joseph Wirth did the chemistry and Stratasys did the 20 years of process engineering. They did what they did so that we can do what we do now. So next time somebody says they print ULTEM on a $300 desktop machine, yes, you can. You can extrude it, but ask about the chamber temperature, ask them about moisture in the filament, how the parts hold up 6 months later under real load. I mean, there's a lot of finesse to it. There's a lot of different things that really go into play. And creating a machine that's reliable over long periods of time and is supported by a team is a whole different beast. Stratasys did the foundational work. They locked it up in patents, and good on them for getting it out into the world in the first place. Now, we're getting it out into way more shops so that more people can actually use it. The chemistry is real. The engineering is real. And the material is finally accessible to companies that don't have a $250,000 budget, and another 10 to 20% of that every year just to keep the service plans active. Anyway, we've got a lot more videos coming in this series. Like the video, subscriptions don't really do much. Subscribe, you should totally subscribe. Head over to visionminer.com to check out our 3D printers, our 3D scanners, all this stuff, but give us a call, shoot us an email, talk to somebody on the team here in the shop. We help businesses integrate this technology into their shops every day, and we've been doing it since 2017. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Have a positive rest of your day, and I'll see you on the next one.